The conference room went silent when the door opened. Marcus Webb, founder and CEO of Webb Technologies, stood in the doorway of the small nonprofit office, his tailored suit worth more than most people's cars. His assistant hovered behind him, tablet in hand, clearly uncomfortable in this part of the city. Behind the battered desk sat a man in his late 20s, worn jeans and a faded shirt, dark circles under his eyes that spoke of too many sleepless nights. His nameplate read, David Chun, Director. "I've been looking for you for 22 years, Marcus said quietly. David's pen stopped mid-signature. He looked up, confusion crossing his tired face. "I'm sorry, do we know each other?" "You don't remember." Marcus stepped into the cramped office, taking in the peeling paint, the secondhand furniture, the walls covered with photos of community meals and after-school programs. "Of course you don't. You were just a child. But let's go back to where this story really begins, to a winter day 2 decades ago, when a 6-year-old boy made a choice that would change 2 lives forever. December 1999. The snow fell heavy on Chicago's south side, turning the streets into a treacherous mix of gray slush and ice. 6-year-old David Chin walked home from school alone, his thin jacket doing little against the cold. His backpack, patched with duct tape, bounced against his small frame. In his pocket, wrapped carefully in a napkin, was one crisp dollar bill. David had found it that morning on the playground, half buried in the snow near the swings. He'd looked around for anyone who might have dropped it, asked his teacher if anyone had reported losing money. When no one claimed it, his teacher said he could keep it. $1. To most people, it was nothing. To David, whose mother worked 2 jobs and still struggled to keep the lights on, it was everything. He'd been planning all day. A candy bar from the corner store, the chocolate kind he'd been eyeing for months. Maybe even 2 candy bars if he picked the cheaper ones. His stomach growled. He'd skipped lunch again, told the cafeteria lady he wasn't hungry so his mother wouldn't know the meal account was empty. The corner store was just ahead, its windows fogged with warmth. David could almost taste the chocolate. Then he saw her. A woman sat huddled in the alcove of an abandoned building, so still David almost missed her. She wasn't old, maybe his mother's age, but she looked ancient. Her coat was thin, her lips blue, her hands shaking as she tried to pull the coat tighter around herself. David stopped walking. His fingers found the dollar in his pocket, the crisp paper soft from being folded and unfolded a dozen times as he daydreamed about candy. The woman's eyes were closed. Her breath came out in small white puffs. David had been hungry before, had been cold before, but he'd always had his mother, their small apartment, the promise that things would get better. This woman looked like she had nothing. He approached slowly, his worn sneakers crunching in the snow. "Ma'am." The woman's eyes opened, dark brown, exhausted, but sharp, alert. She focused on David, and something in her expression softened. "Hi, sweetie. You should get home. It's cold out here. Are you hungry?" David asked. The woman hesitated, then nodded. "A little." David knew what a little meant. It was the same thing his mother said when she gave him the bigger portion at dinner. His fingers tightened around the dollar. He thought about the candy bar, about how long he'd waited for this moment. Then he pulled out the dollar and held it toward the woman. "Here, there's a store right there. They have soup. Hot soup." The woman stared at the money, then at David. "Honey, I can't take your money. It's okay. I found it. Please." David pushed the dollar closer. "I'm not hungry. I already ate." The lie came easily, practiced for months of protecting his mother from worry. "Sweetheart." The woman's voice cracked. She looked at David's thin jacket, his 2 small shoes with the holes in the soles. "You need this more than I do." "I have food at home," David insisted. Another lie. There was rice, maybe some soy sauce. But there would be something. There was always something. "Please take it. You look really cold." The woman reached out with trembling fingers and took the dollar. Tears ran down her cheeks, freezing in the cold air. "What's your name?" "David Chun." "David Chun." She repeated it like a prayer. "I'm Marcus. And I promise you, David, I'm going to remember this. I'm going to remember you." David smiled, his cheeks numb from cold. "Okay. Stay warm, Miss Marcus." He turned and ran home before the woman could see him cry. Not from sadness, but from the strange, warm feeling in his chest that he didn't have words for yet. The feeling of having helped someone who needed it more. Behind him, Marcus, born Marshall Webb, before she'd chosen her name, watched the small boy disappear into the snowy streets. In her hand, the dollar felt like a lifeline, like a promise that the world still held kindness. That night, she used it to buy soup. 3 days later, she checked herself into a shelter. 2 weeks after that, she started the long, brutal journey back from rock bottom. And she never, ever forgot the name of the child who'd saved her life. 22 years later, David stared at the stranger in his office with growing confusion. "I'm sorry, but I don't understand. You said your name is Marcus Webb." "I did." The billionaire moved closer, his eyes scanning David's face with an intensity that was almost uncomfortable. "You gave me $1 when I was homeless. December 1999. You were 6 years old." David's mind reeled back through decades of memories. He'd done a lot of things as a child. Helped neighbors, shared lunch when he had it, shoveled snow for elderly residents. But a specific dollar to a homeless woman? The ghost of a memory surfaced. Snow, cold, a woman in an alcove. The candy bar he'd wanted so badly. "Miss Marcus," David whispered. "You said your name was Marcus." "I did. I do." Marcus pulled out a chair without being invited and sat down. Up close, David could see the fine lines around his eyes, the gray threading through his dark hair. "I was at my lowest point that day. Addicted, homeless, had lost everything. I'd given up, David. I was waiting to freeze to death in that alcove." David's throat tightened. "I was just a kid. You looked hungry. You were a child wearing shoes with holes in them," Marcus said. "I watched you walk away. Saw you were just as cold, just as hungry as I was. But you gave me your only $1. He paused. "Do you know what that did to me?" "I know. It destroyed me." Marcus's voice was thick with emotion. "In the best possible way. Because I realized that if a child who had nothing could still choose kindness, then I had no excuse for giving up. You shamed me into living, David Chun." David sank into his chair, overwhelmed. "I don't know what to say. I got clean," Marcus continued. "Took me 6 months. Nearly died twice from withdrawal. But I kept thinking about you. This little boy who saw a stranger suffering and just helped. No judgment. No conditions. Just pure human decency." He smiled. "I transitioned. Started going by Marcus instead of my birth name. Built myself back up. Went to community college, then state university. Studied computer science. Started a business in my apartment with $500 and a laptop. Web technologies," David said, recognition dawning. "Is that Marcus Webb? The one who revolutionized cloud security?" "The same. The company's worth $4 billion now." Marcus leaned forward. "And for 22 years, I've been looking for a little boy named David Chun who gave me $1 on the south side of Chicago. Do you know how many David Chuns there are in this city?" Despite everything, David laughed. "I can imagine. 273, Marcus said. "I've investigated everyone. Most weren't the right age. Some moved away. Some died." His voice softened. "But I never stopped looking. Because I made you a promise that day. I told you I'd remember you. And I needed to find you. To thank you. To..." He stopped. "To make sure you were okay." David glanced around his shabby office. The cracked ceiling, the ancient computer, the stack of past due bills he'd been reviewing when Marcus arrived. "I'm okay. You're a terrible liar. You were a terrible liar at 6, too." Marcus pulled out his tablet, tapped the screen, and turned it toward David. It showed a detailed financial report on David's nonprofit. Southside Community Outreach. You feed 300 people a week. Run after-school programs for at-risk kids. Job training for adults. Medical advocacy. He looked up. You're doing the work of a $10 million organization on a budget of about $300,000. We manage, David said quietly. You're drowning. Your landlord is threatening eviction. Your food suppliers are demanding payment. Your salary, which is criminal for the hours you work, is 3 months behind. Marcus set down the tablet. David, you've spent your entire adult life giving to others. Just like you did when you were 6. When does someone give back to you? That's not why I do this, I know. That's exactly why you're the right person to receive help. Marcus stood and walked to the wall of photographs. Images of smiling children, grateful families, community meals. My company has a charitable foundation. We're committing $10 million to Southside Community Outreach, effective immediately. Another $5 million over the next 3 years. David shot to his feet. I can't accept that. You can. You will. Marcus turned, and his expression held steel beneath the kindness. Because it's not about you. It's about the 300 people who won't eat this week if you have to close. The kids who will end up on the streets without your after-school programs. The families who depend on what you've built here. But $15 million is what I make in a month, Marcus said bluntly. David, I have more money than I can spend in 3 lifetimes. But I can never repay what you gave me. You gave me hope when I had none. You saw me as human when I've forgotten I was. $1 saved my life. 15 million won't even the scales, but it's a start. David felt tears burning in his eyes. I can't. There's one condition, Marcus added. Of course. David steeled himself. What is it? You have to accept a real salary, and hire actual staff, and stop working yourself to death. Marcus's voice gentled. You're no good to anyone if you collapse from exhaustion. Trust me, I learned that lesson the hard way. 6 months later, David stood in the brand new Southside Community Center, watching children stream through doors that actually locked properly, into rooms with fresh paint and heat that worked. The kitchen gleamed with commercial appliances. The computer lab held 20 new machines. Marcus appeared beside him, having quietly entered through the side door. He did that often now, showed up unannounced to volunteer, to serve meals, to sit with families and listen to their stories. Penny for your thoughts, Marcus said. Inflation, David replied. That'll cost you $1. Marcus laughed, the sound rich and genuine. I owe you significantly more than that. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the chaos of a community meal in progress. The new staff, 5 full-time employees now, moved efficiently through the crowd. The smell of hot food filled the air. My mother came by yesterday, David said. She cried when she saw what you've done here. Your mother who worked 2 jobs to keep you fed and housed? I'd like to meet her properly. She'd like that. She keeps saying you're an angel. David paused. I tried to explain you're just a person I helped once. She says that's what angels are, people who remember to help back. Your mother's a wise woman. Marcus pulled an envelope from his jacket. Speaking of which, this is for her. I did some research. She's been working at the same factory for 20 years. I bought the company last month. David's head whipped around. You what? It was a good investment. But I'm implementing some changes. Better wages. Real benefits. Retirement plans. Marcus handed David the envelope. That's her new contract. She's now the floor manager. Salary tripled. Full health coverage. And she can retire with dignity whenever she's ready. Marcus, you can't just watch me. Marcus's smile held mischief. I'm a billionaire, David. I can do whatever I want. And what I want is to make sure the woman who raised you, who taught you to see suffering and respond with kindness, doesn't have to break her back anymore. David opened the envelope with trembling hands. The numbers blurred through his tears. She's going to faint. Make sure she's sitting down when you tell her. Marcus's expression sobered. David, I need to tell you something. I've lived an extraordinary life since that day you found me. I've built an empire, changed an industry, been on the cover of Forbes, given speeches at Harvard, met presidents and prime ministers. He turned to face David fully. None of it means as much as what happened in this building today. Seeing real people get real help. Knowing that your work continues. That's success. That's legacy. I just wanted to help people, David said quietly. The way I wish someone could have helped us when I was a kid. And you have. You've helped hundreds. Now, with the resources you have, you'll help thousands. Marcus placed a hand on David's shoulder. But I also want you to learn something I had to learn the hard way. You can't pour from an empty cup. You have staff now. Use them. Take a day off. Hell, take a vacation. David laughed. I don't even know what that is. Then it's time you learned. Consider it homework. Marcus squeezed his shoulder once, then released him. I'm making you a member of the Web Foundation Board. You'll help decide where we direct our charitable giving. Your voice, your experience, that's invaluable. And it pays. I don't need more money, David. Marcus's voice held exasperation and affection in equal measure. Stop being noble and start being practical. You need to sustain yourself to sustain others. That's not selfishness. That's wisdom. A commotion near the entrance caught their attention. A woman had arrived with 3 children, all of them bundled against the autumn cold. She looked exhausted, overwhelmed, on the edge of breaking. David recognized that look. He'd seen it in the mirror. He'd seen it on his mother's face. He'd seen it on Marcus's face in an alcove 22 years ago. Without thinking, David moved toward her. Hi. Welcome. Let me help you. Marcus watched him go, watched him crouch down to talk to the children, watched him guide the family toward food and warmth and safety. He saw the 6-year-old boy in the man's gentle gestures, his patient smile. That night, after the center closed and the last family had been fed, David found Marcus in the office, looking at the wall where they'd hung a photo from that snowy day in 1999. Someone had enhanced the old security footage from the corner store, captured the moment of a small boy walking away from a huddled figure, his hands empty, but his posture somehow lighter. "I had that framed," Marcus said. "Hope you don't mind." "I don't." David stood beside him, studying the image. "I've forgotten about that day. Forgotten about you. I'm sorry. Don't be. You were a child doing what came naturally to you, helping someone who needed it. You didn't do it for recognition or reward." Marcus smiled. "Though I'm glad I could finally say thank you. Thank you for finding me. For this." David gestured at the building around them. "For giving me the chance to do more. Thank you for giving me my life back." Marcus turned from the photo. "I've set up a trust. When I'm gone, the majority of my estate goes to this center and organizations like it. You'll oversee the distribution. Years from now, decades from now, the kindness you showed will keep rippling outward." David felt the weight of it, the responsibility, the trust, the chain of kindness extending forward through time. "I'll make sure it's used right. I know you will. You're still that kid who gave away his only dollar to a stranger." Marcus extended his hand. "Partners." David took it. "Partners." Through the window, the city lights sparkled against the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, people were cold and hungry. People were losing hope. People needed someone to see them, to help them, to remind them they weren't alone. But tomorrow, this building would open its doors again, would feed the hungry, shelter the cold, offer hope to the hopeless. And it would keep doing so, day after day, year after year, sustained by the memory of a 6-year-old boy who understood something profound, that we are all connected, all responsible for each other, all capable of changing a life with a single act of kindness. Marcus had spent 22 years searching for David Chun, but what he'd really been searching for was the proof that goodness existed in the world, that people still cared, that one small gesture could echo through decades and transform everything. He'd found his proof, and now, together, they would make sure that same kindness echoed forward, touching lives they'd never meet, creating chains of generosity they'd never witness. $1 had saved a life. 15 million would save thousands. But the real currency had always been the same: seeing someone's humanity and choosing to honor it. That was the gift David had given Marcus. That was the gift they would now give to the world.